Good evening!
Hello!
And welcome to the Scotland continuing takeover of Wild Ginger Running on a Wednesday evening. It's great to have so many of you coming joining us this evening. How's your week been, Jen?
Same as ever.
Always same as ever. Excellent. It's kind of like lockdown. Brilliant. Thank you for all your kind of comments and feedback on last weekend's interview with Moira. It was a great chat with her. And being called Running Royalty hasn't changed as much at all, really, has it? Other than I now ask you to call me His Royal Highness. But that's okay. You ignore me on that one. So I'll, in my head, I'll just have that running along. And also people commenting, if you put the subtitles on, the Mourne Mountains are now turned to the Moran Mountains. Bit of a change going on there. Good evening, John. Well, thanks for joining us. So who have we got on tonight? Enough of our kind of royalty banter.
We've got Eileen Jones on talking about her new book. Congratulations on your new book come out, which is called How Parkrun Changed Our Lives.
Good evening, Eileen. How are we doing?
Good evening, Jen and Marcus, and it's lovely to see there is still a wild ginger in charge of Ginger in charge of the operations tonight.
I think the baton obviously had to get handed over to another ginger. Maybe I'm more wild than Claire, but great. Whereabouts are you at the moment?
I'm in Ambleside at home.
Oh well, that's not bad, is it? To be
not bad. It's been a very, very good place to be stuck in lockdown for the past year. So if there was anywhere else in the world,
Sorry, we'll all be back there soon.
Yeah, I know. We're battening down the hatches now.
We've just had a message from Duncan saying evening, and he's got your book to hand.
Does that mean he's read it yet, or has he just got it to hand?
He's going to wait and see what it sounds like.
So who was our wonderful guest? Eileen, who's up in Ambleside.
So she is up in Ambleside, and journalist, author, publicist, everything really. And we've got some great photos you sent us of an illustrious fell running career, but clearly things are now a little bit more down in the valley for parkrun. Oh, Marcus has already just gone straight in with your fell runner cover girl shot from June 1989.
It was taken by the wonderful Pete Hartley, who was a very, very dear friend, and I just love that photo. And it was wonderful because by the time that photograph appeared on the cover of the Fell Runner, I was about 8 months pregnant, and I was huge. And we went back to the gate that I'm coming through on that fell race, and
couldn't get you through.
Couldn't get through the gate.
Which fell race is it?
It's the Bolesworth Hill. It's over between Burnley and Wycolla.
And what vest are you wearing there? What?
Clayton Moors. I'm still a member of Clayton Moors Harriers, although I don't really race very often these days, but that's my club.
Brilliant. And so have you done lots of Bob Grahams with them? Because Clayton are quite well known for their Bob Graham trips, aren't they?
I never wanted to do the Bob Graham myself, but I have been involved in a lot of Bob Graham efforts. I've got quite a reputation as being a good road support.
I wonder where that comes from.
Yeah.
That's a good reputation to have, though, because the support crew is absolutely vital.
Yeah, I love it. There's nothing I like better than taking off the dirty socks of strange men at roadside.
That wasn't quite what I was expecting, but there we go. We all have.
What happens in those Lake District lay-bys?
Thank you.
Stays in those Well, already we're descending.
Well, I think I should also say about our first meeting, which was in the Lake District and was halfway up a mountain.
Socks.
No, an armadillo was involved.
It was magic. It was the most wonderful day. This fantastic friend of mine called Chris Routledge, he and I are both great fans of Arthur Ransom, as Jen is as well. And we organised a marathon reading of Swallows and Amazons a few years ago on the shores of Coniston to mark some anniversary or other. And then, it worked so well, we thought we must do another one of these. So we decided to do Pigeon Post up at the Copper Mines Youth Hostel. And Jen and I stayed over, and Jen read a chapter. I read a chapter if anybody didn't turn up, because I think there were some hold-ups. I think people had been not able to get through. Maybe trains had been delayed.
It was really bad weather, wasn't it? Like we were really lashing down with rain.
But we were all cosy inside the youth hostel. And Chris had managed to find a toy armadillo to bring along, because an armadillo features, if you haven't read Pigeon Post by Arthur Ransom, an armadillo features quite strongly. And it was just a magical day. After that, we did another one during lockdown. Last year we did The Picts and the Martyrs, which is all about people hiding and being secretive anyway, so it was perfect for lockdown. We're planning another one. We're hoping to do Winter Holiday, so we're looking for a venue to read the whole of Winter Holiday chapter by chapter. But yeah,
fantastic. It was so good. Yeah, and there were some children staying there that hadn't come across the books, and they were kind of fascinated, weren't they? And they were still there when I left.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was our first meeting.
Not so much muddy socks, but a strange armadillo involved. Fantastic.
So congratulations on your book, which is called How Parkrun Changed Our Lives. And I found this book just such a celebration of all things parkrun. And although I'm not a park runner, I have done a few, but I'm not. I'm definitely not into double figures, I don't think. But
you've got a code, you're a park runner.
Well, I'm really inspired now, both with the running of it and the volunteering, and I just absolutely loved hearing just everybody's stories. So how did this book come about?
Well, it's a storybook, basically. I love stories, and I've been a storyteller all my life as a writer, as a journalist. And I've done a lot of parkrun tourism, going off to strange places like Brockwell Park.
We were just talking about that. That's where I used to live.
I would come back to Felfoot, which is my home base, and tell my friends there about the people I'd met and what these different parkruns were like. And they would say, "Oh, you should write all this down. You should write a book." And I kept saying, "No, it's been done before, or somebody else will do it. No, I haven't got the time." And then, of course, what happened a year ago? Everything shut down. And my job, I have my own PR business. I promote tourism and heritage organisations in the Lake District, none of which have been open since. And everything went, all my work went literally overnight. So I spent a few months whinging and moaning to anybody who would listen to me about how fed up I was and what was I going to do. And my younger son, David, said, "You should write another book, Mum." I had written one book years and years ago, and I said, "Well, no, I don't know." And then suddenly one morning I woke up with this line in my head, which ended up being the first sentence of chapter 1, about parkrun being a bit like a religion, that we used to go to church on a Sunday and we would commune together, we would congregate together, we would share a liturgy and a litany that was familiar, and celebrate each other's lives and achievements and go away feeling better about ourselves. That describes parkrun on a Saturday. So having got that one sentence, one idea in my head, the rest of it virtually wrote itself. I just thought, yeah, I'm going to do this. And I have times in my life when I think I'm going to do something, no matter how preposterous the idea, which I'll tell you more about when we talk about the relay. And I made it happen. The wonderful thing was that everybody I spoke to said, "What a fantastic idea, and yes, of course, we'll help." And that's everybody from the founder himself, Paul Sinton Hewitt, whom I approached and said, "Well, I'd like to do this." And he said, "Great, what do you need?" Right down to every person who's ever done a parkrun and done something unusual, the old, the young, the man who runs it backwards, the man who can't see because he's blind, but the wonderful blind man, Dave Williams, he runs with his guide runner, Bex, and she's dyspraxic, so she doesn't always know her left from her right. So he said, between us, we're a right pair. He can't see where he's going. He doesn't know which way to turn. And so it was just stories. They came tumbling in, and I just wrote them down, and it wasn't difficult at all.
Oh, because it really felt like there was a lot of it felt like there was loads of research, like in terms of you have so many people in that book, and I was thinking that must have been fairly was it hard to do during COVID where you couldn't move around, or was it all just done on the phone and email?
There were times when I would have very much liked to talk to people in real life. I've never ever liked phone interviews, or I'd never done anything like this or Zoom or anything before COVID. But yeah, I did have to speak to people on the phone mostly. There were very few I could meet in person. And yes, there was a lot of research, but it was a joy. It was an absolute joy, because I know how much parkrun means to me, but I don't think I realised quite what parkrun was until I started doing the book. I didn't realise how important it was as an entity, as a community. It's much more than just a running event, and that became more and more apparent. And I'm an obsessive. I'm quite happy to admit that.
Brilliant. And we've got so many people kind of joining us live, so if you are watching this live and you've got some parkrun stories you want to share with us, please do, so we can hear even more kind of parkrun stories. And we're aware that we've got even Kurt, who's joining us from over in America. And there might be some people who don't know what parkrun is. You know, they might go, well, what is I mean, you know, if you're a runner, you've almost got to be kind of maybe living under a hermit and this sort of thing if you don't know what parkrun is. But what is parkrun, and kind of give us a quick kind of how did it all start? You know, because we're using this term parkrun. Are we just running around the park, or?
Yeah, it's a free event every Saturday morning, or at least it was until the pandemic, and will be again very soon. 9 o'clock Saturday morning. In Scotland and in Ireland, you get an extra half hour in bed. They start at 9:30.
Typical Scots. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you sign up for it. You have to join by signing up and registering, and you get an individual barcode which you download, you print off, and you carry that with you. And that is it. You then turn up at any event anywhere in the world at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning and set off running. 5k, you can walk it, you can jog it, you can run it fast if you want. You can run with your dog or with your children. You can run with kids in a buggy. You can run it backwards. You can run in posh shoes and a shirt and tie like Dennis at Brockwell Park. And when you finish, your time is recorded, your number is recorded. Within an hour or so, you get a very, very detailed result, and it gives you your time, your position, your age category position, how much better you've done since last time, what age grade, the percentage grading for your age. Fantastic amount of data goes into it. And it started in 2004 in Bushy Park. Paul Sinton Hewitt was a runner who was injured. He was feeling a bit low. He'd been out of contact with his friends because he was injured and sort of suffering a bit of depression, and thought if he organised something on a Saturday morning to bring his running pals together, then at least he would see them and have contact with them. So he started a time trial around Bushy Park of 5k. I think there were 13 runners at the first one. And then he said to everybody, I'm doing this every week forever. And then the idea spread 2 or 3 years before it went anywhere else. I think Wimbledon Common was the next one. And now there are parkruns in 22 different countries, and 7 million people have registered to do it.
That's amazing numbers.
And it's changed everybody's lives.
Brilliant.
And just before we get on to some of those stories, can we talk a little bit about your book launch? Now we've heard where it started, because obviously you're not just, going to put a little post on social media and that's that. I mean, can you tell us what you're doing to launch the book? It sounds amazing.
Well, a book launch is usually you have a signing in a bookshop or something like that. And I thought that by the time my book came out, Parkrun would be up and running again. So I said, oh, well, we'll do a book launch at a parkrun. And people said, well, will it be your home one? And at Felfoot. And I said, no, I'd like it to be at Bushy Park, where it all started. And then, of course, Parkrun isn't going to be starting until June. So I just
Lucy was, I think, Chloe was asking any inside information maybe
about when it would start up again. Was one of the questions we had.
June the 5th. June the 5th.
There you go, Chloe.
All well, June the 5th. So I thought, let's still see if we can get the book to Bushy Park. And I got this idea in my head about a relay from Felfoot to Bushy over 7 days. And I thought, well, how can we do this? And again, it was like the writing of the book. Once I get an idea, it's just going to happen. I had one friend who is a parkrun ambassador. That's one of the senior volunteers who oversees other parkruns. I'd met her a couple of times at parkruns in Cheshire. And I had a word with her and I said, what do you think? Do you think we can get people together? And she was so up for it. Eve Taylor, honestly, she's the most amazing woman. When Paul Sinton Hewitt becomes president, I want Eve Taylor as prime minister. We're going to run the world, run the country on parkrun lines. So we split a fantastic woman called Liz Wakelin, who is great with maps. She organised a route, because I kind of knew where Bushy Park was if I drove down there, but I'd no idea where you went if you wanted to go on foot. So she found a map, and then we recruited organisers for each section of the country over 7 days, and then between us we recruited 105 different runners, of whom I think 91 have now finished, because it's just finished today at Aylesbury and tomorrow is the last day. So we set off last Friday from Felfoot, and I was carrying a copy of the book for Paul Sinton Hewitt to give to him when we get there, because he's up for this, he said, yeah, of course I'll be. I set off running and I handed over to somebody who handed over to somebody else, and at the end of the day the book went to bed for the night. In the meantime, we got in touch with, James Thurlow got in touch with us. James, who does open tracking for all the big events.
Yeah.
And he offered the use of a tracker, and he and Eve Taylor created an interactive map. So the tracker and the book are in a little a rucksack that we customised. My friend Joe Jackson customised it, and it's on its way down. So yeah, I've been following it ever since I parted with it on Friday.
So we can actually track tomorrow the final leg of the
whole thing.
Of the book launch.
It's just been such a joy, honestly. People have embraced it, and everybody wants to be part of something again. Throughout the last year, sure, we can all go out for a run, and those of us who live up here can go out for a run in beautiful areas. But it's not like being part of something, whether it's a race or a parkrun or an event. And everybody who's come on board just says it's been wonderful to feel part of something bigger than themselves again. And people have smiled, people have had fun, and fun has been in short supply the last 12 months, hasn't it? It's just been awful. And suddenly everybody's having a ball and they're happy. And I've just been walking around with a big grin on my face for the last... I've been staring at the computer screen for the last... Where's it got to? Oh!
I think that really encapsulates kind of the whole spirit of parkrun and the joy that comes across in your book, that it isn't just running around a park. And one thing, like, you go into detail about the volunteers and that side, and the social aspect of it, the health aspects. I mean, it just seems to touch so many areas of people's lives.
Yeah. And it's not something that's just for people who can run fast or people who look good in lycra. It's for anybody, and you just see all shapes and sizes. You see all ages, really slow people. That lovely couple who were in the book, Josie and Conrad, they have been coming to parkrun since it started at Felfoot, and they volunteer and run alternate weeks. And they're 85, and they celebrated their diamond wedding anniversary by running across the line together. And Josie, she kind of mostly walks it now, but she's not always at the back. And then we've got people like Ben Abdulnoor, who's won loads of Lake District races and championships. And he goes along to parkrun to do some speed work, and he's horrified to find himself beaten by 12-year-old kids.
I know, I love that in the book where he says, well, it doesn't matter, but it really does matter.
Absolutely. It's just there for everybody, and because it's free and it's fun. And the thing is also, when you finish, everybody is still there waiting for you. There's lots and lots of unwritten rules, maybe they are written down somewhere, about parkrun. It's got to be inclusive and it's got to be kind and generous. And you don't move a single marshal out of position or a single flag until the very last person is back. I finished fell races so late in the day that everybody except the timekeeper's gone home, and they're sort of sitting nodding off on a camp chair. But at parkrun, everybody waits and everybody cheers in the very, very, and there's never a last person because we have a tail runner or a tail walker who goes around at the back anyway, so nobody is ever last. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, so I mean, interesting saying how wonderful, and like in the book you liken it to religion, and I mean, I spent kind of 5 years working as a minister in a church, as a youth pastor.
Really?
So yeah, and I studied theology, and I kind of and it is interesting when you talk about running and belonging to something. But what do you think it is about draw? Do you think it is because it is that all inclusive and because of the setting and the distance? What draws that to people find this is so there is no elitism, there's no numbers, is there? How would you kind of think? Right, this is. I think
it's a combination of all those factors, Marcus. I think that because it's a manageable distance, that most people can manage 5k 3 miles, that you can walk it if you want to. But most people, even if they start off walking, want to have a go at it. The fact that it's free, the fact that families can go along, the fact it's on a Saturday when quite often races are on a Sunday. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, so you've got the rest of your day to do other things with your family or your friends. So I think all of those things together. But it's really interesting because we had, as you'll know from the book, I talked to quite a lot of ministers, clerics of various religions. And, they've got their own views about this. But they all say that the church could learn a lot from parkrun about how it welcomes people in. And especially the Reverend Matt Gilder, he's the curate in Lancaster, whom I quote in the book. And he actually took part in the relay. He was our first leg runner on day 2. And he set off from his church in Lancaster wearing his dog collar, but his parkrun T-shirt over it. And he did 11 miles. And then I said, do you want me to come and pick you up and give you a lift back? No, I'll run back. I'm training for a marathon. But he says that, obviously there is something missing. He, as a Christian, said there is something missing, that, that the person of Jesus Christ is what's part of a church. He said, but otherwise the church could learn an awful lot about how strangers, newcomers, people who come on their own are welcomed. And I've found that because I've been to parkruns all over the place, London and elsewhere. And I often go on my own, and you just walk along and see somebody in a high-vis vest and say, hi, can you tell me what the route's like? And within 5 minutes, you've got a friend for life, They are incredibly welcoming, and they've made a point of being like that. They're just tactful, diplomatic, kind. It's kindness. It's kindness.
And for anybody that hasn't been to a park run, how do we get involved? So if you register online and get a barcode, which you print off, is it, or can you use it on your phone?
No, you can't use it on your phone. You have to print it off. So you've got either a piece of paper which you can laminate and carry with you, or you can have your barcode printed onto a card or a wristband.
Yeah.
So we're just having some.
It's okay, we couldn't hear a little bit of that, but we're all right.
I'm going to take your AirPods out.
And then I was just going to check what happens so that I have the confidence to turn up at any park run in the country.
Yeah. So you just turn up maybe 15 minutes or so beforehand. I always turn up incredibly early. I'm usually there before the people setting up. So what do? I say, do you want any help setting up the course? And they say, yeah, please. And I know how to stick flags in the ground. So you then run. Everybody sets off at 9. You hand at the finish. You you're timed, you stay in position in a finish funnel, and you hand your own barcode to be scanned and your finish token to be scanned, and that just records your time and your position and everything else. And it's easy.
Yeah.
It's free. Brilliant. There's a brilliant website that will tell you where all the parkruns are in the country, in the world, and how to register.
Fantastic. And then tell us a little bit about Felfoot Park Run, that is your local one, because I loved it that you were trying to set one up in the South Lakes and we just couldn't find a park big enough.
At first I thought, why would people in the Lake District want to do parkrun anyway? You know, I'm surrounded by people who run around the Fairfield Horseshoe before breakfast. So I thought for a few years, once I'd started doing it elsewhere, no, it's a silly idea. But then Felfoot became apparent it was a good venue. And we gathered together this really disparate community of people who, because there isn't really a neighbourhood nearby to Felfoot. It's just at the end of Windermere. So people came from all over the place, from Kendal and from Levens and from Ulverston. And we just got together and made it happen in the spirit of parkrun. And this was in 2014, we had our first one. We've had some great adventures. The first winter we had to stop completely because the meadow got so flooded. And then we thought, why are we bothering stopping? Let's create an alternative course for the winter when we can't get through the floods. So we have this rather famous, crazy 4.5 lapper that goes round and round in figures of 8. And it's lovely, you know, it's a lovely atmosphere. It's a beautiful setting. And then just recently, I helped a group of people set up the new one in Ambleside. They only had 6 of those before lockdown in Rothay Park, where we did find that we could run around the park and an adjoining field. And anybody living in Ambleside panicking, thinking, oh, it looks like they're building on it. No, they're creating a car park, but they are making our pathway around that car park still available. So parkrun in Rothay Park will be happening as normal.
And you don't need to put out these maps of doom or whatever it is that you were talking about.
Doom does, absolutely. Yeah. And then, of course, there's Winlatter, which is the fell runners parkrun. And
so this is what, forest trails and hilly and...
Oh, it's the hilliest in the country.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in terms of overall ascent and descent, it's by several hundred metres the most extreme. And it's just wonderful because as a former fell runner, you know, you've just got this lovely, lovely scenery and then you can plummet downhill all the way to the finish. But it starts lower than where it finishes. And it starts with a good half mile downhill. So you then say, uh-oh, what's coming next? But it's gorgeous. It's lovely.
And I love the section that you had about parkrun tourism. Like, it sounded like you were an accidental tourist because you'd just been going to ones when you were visiting your sons and things. But then there became some weird and wonderful challenges. I still don't know what the pirate is or the Bee Gees or anything, but I got the alphabet one. But
Bee Gees are a band from
can you explain what we can do as parkrun tourists?
The Staying Alive challenge is 3 B's and 3 G's.
And what am I doing? I have to go with like first letter.
Burnley, Bolton, Bradford, Guernsey, Gunnersbury, what's that one in North Gladstone? So I've done the Pirates. That's the Staying Alive challenge. The Pirates challenge is 7 C's and an R. So it's Cuerden, Coventry, whatever. And then, you know, an R at the end. And there's these crazy people. This is the wonderful thing. Parkrun is full of very, very eccentric, crazy people. There are some challenges which I don't even understand what they are. You know, the Wilson Index and the P Index. And they're really complicated. But the alphabet is you know, straightforward. There's no X anywhere in the world. There are Zs in Poland and there's a new Z in the Netherlands, but there's no Z in the UK. So, you know, people in the UK can do 24 letters of the alphabet. I have, obviously.
And some people do them in order, but I don't think you did you?
Some people do them in order. The real nerds do sort of, they would do, they do what's it called in North London? Ali Pali. They do Alexandra Palace before they did Ambleside. So that,
really?
know,
Okay.
Oh wow!
But then the trouble is, they get halfway through the alphabet, and then there's a new A is created, and then they have to start again. I didn't do it. There
must have been a lot of disappointed people when our local one, Bakewell, started because.
Oh, there's loads of B. I think there's more B's than anything. There's a lot of B's and a lot of H's. I've got quite a lot of both of those.
I mean, in Chloe, who's kind of watching us live, she's mentioned about Christmas Day, because you have parkrun on Christmas Day, don't you? And that fancy dress parkrun,
oh yeah,
it's the best. It's all, which is like, as you talk about in the book, and we've already mentioned, it's like so religious, isn't it? You know, like Christmas Day was always an important time in the church. It should be a joyful time, and people are then turning up together on Christmas Day in fancy dress.
Yeah.
And it mentions in the book that for some people this could be their only contact on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
An important part.
That's very important, not just on Christmas Day, but on any day. There are people who live on their own for whom it was a real point of contact. And one of my really dear friends at Fellfoot, a guy called John Nettleton, whom I got to know quite well, but it was after quite a long time I realised he was John Nettleton MBE for services to the Lake District National Park, former mountain leader, mountain guide, former competitor in all the big races like the Mountain Trial. And he died just before Christmas. He was 92 when he died. And until he was 90, he was still running. After that, he was just marshalling or tail walking. And his wife, she died a little bit before him, but for some years she'd been in a home. She had dementia, and he was living on his own. And he used to say to me, Eileen, this is the highlight of my week. He loved parkrun so much, and it was when he came together with all the. I mean, he has a lovely family, but they don't live nearby. For him, this was his friendship group, and it was just wonderful. So I actually dedicated the book to his memory, because he died just as we were finishing all the editing on it. And people like that, you know, it's an absolute lifeline. And that's why we have to get it back, that the last year has been too isolating for an awful lot of people. And it's very, very important that we get
in
it
the
back.
book, as well as hearing about the weird and wonderful and eccentric ones, there is also a lot, you put in quite a lot of research about the health benefits. And I mean, it seems to be prescribed by some GP surgeries and really been taken on board, hasn't it? Yeah. There are GP practices now, I think maybe 1,500 of them around the country, which have signed up to become parkrun practices, so that they are officially linked to their local parkrun, and they will prescribe parkrun instead of medication, you know, for people maybe with diabetes, with people with weight problems, with people with depression, with other mental health problems, whatever. And our local one here in Ambleside, the Rothay Park, one of our run directors is one of the local GPs, you know, and he was really very much a driver in getting it set up there. So it has a lot of benefits, yeah.
Brilliant. And so you talk about the weird and eccentric. I mean, as it's evolved, it has kind of changed in certain ways, and you're wearing a certain type of hoodie, aren't you, as well? So so the more parkruns you do also get kind of rewards. So not only do you get printout results as well, but there are. That make it a little bit elitist, or is it? Because I know there's a lot of people, and I've come across quite a few runners who are obsessed about that kind of 50 and 100.
Yeah. Well, the official parkrun milestones, you get a T-shirt when you've done 50, when you've done 100, and when you've done 250, and when you've done 500. But as aside from that, an unofficial group set up of parkrun tourists who created something called the cow cowl, and it's a buff, yellow and black with little black cows on it. And when you've done 20 or more different parkruns, you can get one of these, and you buy one. And it's not an official parkrun thing, but you'll see loads of people wearing them when you go to parkruns. And it means we recognise each other. Oh, you're a tourist. Oh, where are you from? You know, and that's how I'd recruited a lot of my people to do the relay. And then you also want to become a member of the Cowell Club. The first couple to do 100 different parkruns were called, their surname was Cowell. So when you've done 50 different parkruns, you're a member of that, you're half Cowell. And get your full Cowell when you've done 100. And I think I've got mine.
Woo, yeah, we can see 100 venues.
Wow.
Yeah, 100 venues. So I've listed, and I was really, really lucky. I got to those 100 venues just before Christmas, and I got to my 250th overall before Christmas, just before lockdown. Whereas my lovely friend Sally Ann Lambert, she'd done 99 parkruns before lockdown. So she's been on the cusp of getting 100 for a whole year.
It's going to be more after a year.
That 5th of June, it's going to be...
So many people like... But, you know, we're all bonkers. But, you know, the world's a nice place if people are bonkers, I think.
And it does talk
Not
in the book.
disagreeing.
I think it is a part.
I met you up a mountain to read a book.
Yeah.
We're not here to philosophise about the ways of the world, but a lot of problems in this world, of course, because of especially men's egos, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, but if you're a bit bonkers, then you don't really have that issue about egos, do you, really?
Absolutely.
I was going to say there is kind of quite... It talks about, which I guess that other books won't have done, it talks about the impact that not having parkrun during this pandemic has been, which I guess is quite difficult to quantify at the moment what that impact is. But it just seems so heartbreaking where something that we know has such positive benefits has been taken away for like a whole year, is it, that we haven't been able to run parkrun?
Yeah. Yeah, and like we said before, it's not just the running itself, it's coming together as a community, and people have suffered. And they've found very interesting ways of getting around it. You know, I've been running with my friend Jo from a different bridge every Saturday. We've done about, goodness knows how many, I mean, maybe 40 odd different bridges from somewhere near Ambleside.
So not quite got your bridge T-shirt yet.
Jo's got one. Jo got one, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. And then Parkrun itself realised that they had this database and this capacity to upload results. So they said you can go and run 5K any day of the week and upload your not parkrun results. And so people started doing this, but then they thought, oh, unlike parkrun, you can do it more than once. So now there are people doing 7 not parkruns a week and uploading their results and they're published on the official parkrun website. And there's a group in, I think it's Witney in Oxfordshire, and they are way out as champions. But you know, it's battle, it's fierce.
This is the most competitive, non-competitive thing I've ever heard.
Absolutely fiercely competitive. You know, they're trying to get us. They have more people doing not parkrun than they ever had turning up to parkruns. It's crazy, but you know, I was fighting a little bit. There's a wonderful woman called Cecilia Flint who is one of our core volunteers at Fellfoot, and I was catching her. She was doing 6 not parkruns a week, and I thought, right. And then I got injured, so I've slipped behind a bit.
Oh dear.
But I hope we'll see you come and have a go. You know, when you're coming up to the lakes to do one of your ultra runs, come and have a little warm up round the field. But,
I'm sorry, but I'd rather run 100 miles than a park run.
Yeah, well,
we did one together.
I've done Hallamshire,
Ecclesall Park,
which gets a mention. I can't remember why. I think because one of the people that works for Parkrun was doing that, and I've done Poole. Was it? I did a really flat one.
Yeah. I mean, I've done more than you. I've done Wimbledon, Bakewell, and Ecclesall. I think I've only done.
That's Hallamshire one, yeah.
Yeah, done 3.
Oh, we're not going to get a T-shirt
we're
in this.
not going to get anywhere near.
I loved hearing. So I have done a few parkruns, but I've never volunteered. Now I have volunteered and marshalled at fell races, and other races, which I love. But there seem to be people that just volunteer. They've never run. They just volunteer for parkrun. And I loved one of the quotes that you had in the book. Somebody had said that, I'm paraphrasing, but like, well, yeah, you can have a job and a career, but it won't be as rewarding as volunteering.
Yeah.
So what is it about volunteering, and like what can I volunteer to do at a parkrun?
Well, you can help set up the course, which is my speciality because I'm quite an early bird and I like getting places early.
I'm usually late, I'll warn you now.
we need marshals standing at key points, to say turn left, turn right, and to shout very loudly, like get your knees up, get up that hill. A tail walker to go right at the back so that nobody's actually last, and just to make sure everybody gets around safely. And then we have timekeepers, we have barcode scanners, and we have a very important job called the funnel managers.
There seem to
and
be
it's very important in the finished funnel that you stay in position.
Okay.
Now, that's not so critical at Felfoot, where we have 200 or so runners, but at Bushy Park, they have sometimes 1,300. And because there's no chip timing, so it's all done manually. We scan, but everybody has to queue up and present their barcode. And this is really interesting about parkrun. They could have easily introduced a chip timing system, but they deliberately decided not to, because the queuing up to present your number and wait to be scanned is all part of the social experience. That's where you get to talk to the person in front of you. Or where you're saying to somebody, oh, you did really well, or my watch stopped, what time did you do? And if you have a chip timing system, you cross the line and you just go. But because you have to stay and hand in your token and have it scanned before you'll get your official result, it's really important from a social point of view. And I think that's absolutely fascinating that they deliberately, they've got loads of other technology in place, but that particular aspect of it that they wanted to avoid, so that people would hang around and stay together and speak to each other.
That's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah,
that it's not just set out to be a time trial. This is about something else.
Absolutely.
As well. So what have you been your favourite park runs? I remember you saying it was Edinburgh that had the biggest funnel. I didn't really understand what that was, but I do now.
That's the biggest one that I've said. Yeah, because I helped them there. That was fascinating. I mentioned in the book, my favourite of all was Mount Edgecombe, which is in Cornwall, just across the Tamar estuary from Devon. So you catch this little tiny ferry across the estuary, and it's in the grounds. You start in the grounds of this beautiful stately home, and then it's a real fell runner's course. You go up through some amazing woods, fabulous view over Plymouth Sound and Drake's Island, and then a fantastic proper fell runner's descent down through the woods. And it was one of those days. It was a glorious summer morning, and we all sat out in the courtyard drinking coffee and tea afterwards, and everything about it was perfect. I love Felfoot because it's my home one. I love Winlatter because it's just so, it's so tough and so extreme. But I love lots of them. It's really, really hard. I love lots of them.
And how many have you done?
264. 260 something, maybe 265, and I've done it at 104 different locations.
Wow, a connoisseur.
So yeah, I mean, so we've been. I don't know if we've actually talked about how did you get from like fell running into something then like thinking, well, 5k round a park, kind of Bushy Park. I mean, I've ran round Bushy Park. I have.
Yeah.
I know you two were wax lyrical about London and the kind of park, and I have run around Bushy Park, and it's a fast place. I've done some training with some fast runners on there, but it's not the same as kind of running on the fells. If I had the choice between running on the fells,
and I still run on the fells. I train on the fells. I mean, I live at the foot of Lothrig, and I go up there once a week. But in terms of racing, I was getting slower and slower, and the last time I did the Lothrig Fell race, I wasn't last. I was second to the last, behind an American partially sighted roadrunner who had a guide person on either side of him and was wearing road shoes. And he was about an hour behind me, and it was gone dark by the time he got in. But otherwise, I was last. And I was so far off the back of the pack. And I thought, well, what's the point of doing this? If you're in an event, you want to know where you are in relation to everybody else. And then I kept thinking about the poor marshals hanging around on the summit, thinking, where the blooming hell's Eileen, And so I thought, it's not fun anymore. I used to love doing fell. I was always quite near the back, but there was always somebody I could have a bit of a challenge with. And then my sister, who took up running very late on, she was in her 50s before she even ran a single step, and became incredibly good. But she discovered parkrun at Heaton Park, where we grew up, and said, you must come along and try it. And I just love the atmosphere of it, and the fact that I wasn't actually last, but by a long way, I wasn't last. And there were people I could have a go and try and catch up with. So, yeah, I still do all my training on the fells, but to have that opportunity once a week to be amongst people, to be that, come back to that thing about being part of something bigger than yourself. And to find different ones, that some of them are fast and flat and the sort of thing you do your speed training on tarmac. But there are some beautiful ones through woodland and hilly ones and riverside and lakeside, gorgeous. And it's just being part of it. So that's how it happened, really. But yeah, I mean, I still love running on the hills, but I'm just far too slow to feel that I don't need to race the fells anymore. I don't think.
We've got some fantastic photos of you. There's one, I don't know which fell race that is.
It's a Coniston, I think. Kind of some
tough mountain one.
Yeah, in your Cleveland.
Oh yeah,
it might be Winlatter Parkrun, actually, looking at it.
The mountain one is from the Pete Hartley book. The book that Steve Chilton and Dick Denise brought out, and it says on the prison band, and so that must have been the Coniston fell race. I don't even remember Pete taking that picture, but yeah, that's when it was, back a long, long time ago.
Do you still wear the red shorts for your parkrun?
No, not quite that short. Those were the days.
Oh no, that's Marcus's favourite subject, chatting about shorts for running and how it's not like that anymore.
I tell you, get back to the 90s and 80s when we had proper short show your legs. We're getting some great comments coming in, those who are joining us live on YouTube.
Yeah, we've got hi Ed.
How are we doing, Ed?
Key says, so looking forward to getting back to Felfoot Parkrun, even nostalgic for the winter course.
So you obviously got flippers and snorkels ready there.
Not quite.
We've got a new challenge, I think, from Chloe Mason. She says, she did a parkrun in the morning and a fell race then at lunchtime, but she said she only did this once because it was so tough.
Be nice.
It was tough.
And then Steve's given us a comment that said that his sister did couch to 5k to start running when she was in her 60s, and he just didn't think that she would have done it if it wasn't for parkrun to aim for. So that's really showing how encouraging it is. And I guess we hadn't really talked about that, but the app Couch to 5k is just so popular and well known, and it really just leads you into doing a parkrun, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Brilliant. So, how do you see the future of parkruns? Do you think every kind of town, every village, every city? Because I mean, some cities, like we're saying, like talking about London, have got several parkruns happening, isn't there? Are we looking at
30 or 40 in London, in Greater London.
So, there we go, Chloe. That's a challenge for you. We're never all the same time, aren't they? You can't
do that.
Can't do stagger.
Week at a time. It's called London. When you've done all the London ones,
of course, it's a challenge.
DONE.
And do you have to do it in
alphabetical order?
No, or order they were set up. What is it with stats and parkruns? Is it I've never known a race like it.
Well, this I actually invented a challenge which has become. There's a couple who do. It's not an official parkrun thing, but has been adapted so that you can add this extension, a Chrome extension, to your results, and you get your Pirates challenge and you get your alphabet challenge. And I invented one which is the name challenge, and I suddenly thought, I wonder if I've done parkruns in all the letters of my name. So E for Eileen, I've done Edinburgh, I've done Inverness, I've done Lytham. And then I thought, I haven't done all. But then I just suggested it as a kind of throwaway remark. And the next thing is, there it is as an official challenge. So, I go through people's names. Jen, well, I've done Jersey, Edinburgh, Nobles, that was on the Isle of Man. I've done lots of S's. I've done Suaby. And so on, so you can, I've done lots of other people's names, but not my, I've got to do 2 more E's before I've done my Eileen Jones.
Yeah, you've got a bit of a disadvantage with all those E's.
Yeah, too many vowels.
And
Well,
we've just put up the book cover again. Is there a story behind the front cover? How was that chosen? We've got some people, which I
yeah,
think are they the same people?
they're the same people. Yeah, clever. Yeah, I got some ideas. I wanted to have a pretty bright coloured photograph on the cover, and I showed it to my family, and my younger son David said, "That's absolute rubbish, Mum. It's not got any impact. It's not got any dynamism." And he sent me the famous outline of the ascent of man, from the figures, and said, "You need something like that." And in his original sketch, the final person who was upright was getting a barcode scanned at the parkrun. Anyway, I needed to put that into some sort of design format. So a friend from Felfoot, who's actually living out of the area at the moment, Laura McGuigan, she's really good at this photographic technique of multiple layers. So I gave it to her. She came up with the photograph itself. And then a woman called Ellen Longhorn, who's a designer based in Windermere, put the whole thing into a cover. And I insisted that we had apricot, which is the T-shirt, the parkrun T-shirt colour, on the spine and on the back. So it was a kind of organic process, really. And so it's Laura and Dave twice, and they are on the beach at Woolacombe Dunes in Devon, which is where one of the very, very toughest parkruns is.
Is this the one on the sand?
On the sand hills, yeah. They have the Dune of Doom.
So all those out there who are training for Marathon des Sables, get yourself down there. But don't just do one parkrun. I think the challenge would be to do kind of like 5 back to back. So you kind of do it.
Well, then you have to spell out like Marathon des Sables as another challenge.
Yeah. Oh, there's a good idea.
Oh no, what have we done now?
Right. Well,
I think you inspire me. I might have a look at some of the Derbyshire ones and see when they start up if I should.
Well, there's we do have one literally just 5 minutes away down at Bakewell.
That's on an old railway line, like an out and back. So I'm afraid I'd not.
June the 5th. You get down there June the 5th.
Yeah. I'll be that you're going to be a tourist and come and do some of ours and see us when we're allowed.
Definitely. Yes, absolutely. I'd love to. So I'll be looking out for your names in the results, because of course there are no secrets about parkrun, and for years and years and years I've lied about my age, and I used to say that once you got to 60 you could start counting backwards. So I'm actually only 52 now, but parkrun has got you in age categories in 5-year gaps. So everybody in the world can look at my age category and think, oh, well, she's older than she claims. But at the same time, you get kind of quite proud of it. Like when I said in the book, I went to do the parkrun at Old Deer Park near Richmond, and I was first Old Deer. I was first in my category. So I thought that was quite nice, really.
I mean, you talked about those. Somebody like 105 that was still running in the book. They were the people that you've mentioned at Felfoot that were. I mean, it's just fantastic stories. But then also junior parkrun and kids coming and how it's become a real family activity.
Yeah, because that's what we've not talked about. Junior parkrun, isn't it? So we had, like I was saying, like where does parkrun go? Because it's bigger and bigger. Yeah. So what's for those again?
Well, they have separate events on, not in every venue. There is one in Keswick, I think. On Sunday mornings, which are just 2K for kids to run on their own if they want. But children of any age are accepted and welcomed at the main ones. But until you're 11, you have to run with a responsible adult. So you can run along, as soon as you can walk, you can toddle along beside your mum or dad. But I've been to parkruns where the briefing beforehand, when they welcome everybody, and some guy just said, "Excuse me, but can I ask, is there anybody here who can get round in about 23 minutes? Because my little lad here is much faster than me." And so, and he was only 8 and he had to be with a responsible adult. So they found this guy to run with him, and Dad was 8. But yeah, I mean, Paul Sinton Hewitt, his ambition is take over the world. It's going to be bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's no reason why not, because it's free and it's all run by volunteers, and there's no sign of it fragmenting. So
and it has challenged, hasn't it, like the use of public spaces, because there was that case in Bristol wanted to stop the parkrun, or was it charged?
They did.
Yeah.
They did. Yeah, they wanted to charge, and so it actually stopped. That's the only one that I know of where a local council has forced the closure of a parkrun, because parkrun said, no, we're not paying this. It's free forever for everybody. That is the bottom line. So if you're going to have to pay to use the land, there's not going to be a parkrun there. But mostly, parks, recreation grounds, open spaces, canal towpaths, old railway lines, like you say, near yours. There is plenty of open space. I can't go anywhere now without thinking, we could do a good parkrun.
Measuring your laps around your little park.
I go places and I think, I'll just run around this park and see how many times it would get to 5k, how many laps I'd have to do. And
what's the most laps that a park run would have to be? Is the one that is the kind of 10 laps of a little park?
No, they don't really like you going more than 4. There are 2 5-lappers that I know of. One is at Highbury Fields in London, where you go 5 times round this sort of oblong of grass. And it's quite useful if it's winter, because you can take a finger out of your glove each time you get to another lap done. And the other one is Millom in Cumbria, which is 5 laps of the muddiest field in the entire universe. And it's renowned and kind of loved, in inverted commas, for being so dire. But I'm told that they are doing something with the ground and, draining it a bit, so it'll spoil it some.
might lose that mud appeal.
Lose the claim to be the muddiest, grimmest park run. So where are you going to be on the 5th of June? Are you
Felfoot?
And are you going to be running or volunteering?
I'll be volunteering. I'll do anything and everything, because we will need more volunteers. When we start up again, it's going to be a little bit different. We'll have to keep people a little bit more spaced out, and there'll be slightly different scanning procedures. And I'm just happy to get back there and be part of it. So for the first one, I'll be volunteering, and Sally, my friend Sally, will be running her 100th. So.
Oh, yeah, she knew. And do you think after lockdown there's going to be, well, I guess there might be initially some people a bit wary of going to such large events, but do you think all these people that have taken up running in lockdown just means that it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're quite right. There will be people who are anxious, and the whole of the pandemic phase has brought out different things in different people. I still know people who will cross Compston Road in Ambleside because they think if you look at them, they'll catch COVID. People have got different anxiety levels about it. So yes, some people will stay away. I just can't wait to get back there. It's far more important for everybody's physical and mental health. I think statistically, the risks are far greater to the nation's health for other reasons, and we need to get it back as quickly as we can. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
Oh.
Fingers crossed for the 5th of June, yeah. We're all kind
of
everything's crossed, don't we? So is there anybody who wants to get hold of the book? How do they get hold of the book? Do we have to that horrible kind of...
Well, ignore what it said on Amazon today, which was that they'd run out of stocks and there wouldn't be any till the 20th of April. That's not true.
That's
fake news.
Come on, that's the kind of news you want, isn't it?
The distributors were sending them another batch today. They've got plenty at Amazon. You can buy it. What's really nice, if you can buy it through bookshop.org, which is the independent booksellers collective, and also through the publisher Gritstone, which is a cooperative. And if you do it through Gritstone, you get a signed copy. So
I've got a signed.
So look on their website, Gritstone Publishing, and you can order it direct through there as well.
Brilliant. And if we've inspired anybody to get involved in parkrun, they just go and Google parkrun.
Yeah.
And then sign up, get your barcode. It is good fun. I mean, I've taken my kids to Bakewell a couple of times, and even my son, who was diagnosed with diabetes, kind of 4 or 5 months afterwards, he went and smashed his parkrun PB. He was like, Dad, I want to go and do that. And I paced him. I kind of dragged him along for about 21 minutes.
And then he left you.
Yeah, but he did actually, because I had done a race, I think, the week before. I don't know if I wasn't quite 100%. And the last 200 meters, he outkicked me, and I was like, looking at my 15-year-old son as if so.
Well, we'll be checking the results because apparently you can't hide.
But yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me. It's just really lovely to talk to you both.
It sounds like there's been lots of people that just can't wait for Parkrun to get back, and just they've missed it. So I love that this book was really about a celebration of just how much it had touched so many people's lives. It's really, really fantastic to read.
Have you got plans for any more books as well? Because you said you've written one ages ago.
Yeah, got a couple of ideas.
Oh, excellent. Nice teaser to end on there. Excellent. We'll end on that teaser note there. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure I'll see you at a Swallows and Amazons themed reading soon. But thank you for joining us.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Excellent. Well, there we go. Inspired to go and just run 5K.
I am. All volunteer. That sounded just as fun and just as much cake.
Cake is always important.
There's a whole chapter about cake.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for those who have joined us live this evening. It's great having you along. If you're listening to us on podcast, if you've taken us out for a run, I hope you've enjoyed our company. And if you've liked the podcast, please leave a review on whatever platform you're listening to. If you're watching us back on YouTube, please kind of click the like button and hit the subscribe if you're not already a subscriber to keep up to date with what videos we've got coming up and what Claire's posting as well. And who have we got next week? Next week we're going global, aren't we, next week?
Are we talking to Mike?
We are talking to Mike Wardian next week, one of the kind of ultra running superstars. So we've got Mike coming on, a little kind of pre-Easter. And it's the official end of our Scotney Takeover, but we might have a bit of news of what's going to be happening after Easter. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks,
we hope
guys.
you've had a great evening. Stay safe and get ready to get out to Parkrun in June. Take care.